Oh, why have I got no sound? There we go. We've got the sound now. All right, we start off in the bottom right-hand side. First match of this closed NA server qualifier. Closed meaning that it's the 16 players, 8 players from the open qualifier joined 18 invites, and 16 players now battle for 4 slots in the DreamHack SE2 Masters Last Chance event in January. $57,000 on the line in that event. And it's obviously your last chance to get ESL points. And for someone like ByuN, our red Terran bottom right, that can make the difference between going to Katowice and not going to Katowice. So that's already an important one for ByuN. Every point he can earn just makes him that little bit safer in the long run. So he would really love to qualify today. Of course, Astrea, I believe, is already somewhat guaranteed for Katowice. I believe the big thing for Astrea, and maybe I think this is true, so I'll have to double check it, but I think the big part of this for Astrea is that Astrea, if he qualifies and gets extra points, it's still possible for him to maybe overtake Scarlet/Neeb, or is he already ahead of Scarlet/Neeb? Yes, he's actually ahead of Scarlet/Neeb, so he's actually okay, because the NA players, 3 of them go to Katowice, but 2 of them go straight into the main portion of the tournament, and the other goes to the play-in section. Obviously, you would prefer to start in the main portion of the tournament, so I actually think Astrea is safe. It's very difficult for Scarlet and Neeb to overtake him, so for Astrea, maybe a little bit less stress on getting in, but obviously it's a big prize pool, so you still do want to qualify, you do still want to take part of that. As our SCV comes out to the upper left-hand side, and a little bit of scouting starts here. So, yes, just a little bit of what's on the line again. First round, we've got... You got to win 3 matches to get through in the winner bracket. 2 best-of-3s and then a best-of-5 qualifying match. And as we do have our... probe coming out down the bottom side. Both players just scouting early, but there's nothing really of note to talk about here. The biggest note right now is the fact that this is going to be a non-Reaper opening, right? This is going to be a Marine first opening that obviously typically speeds up the factory timing. There's that reactor already building up on the barracks, and there is the factory. So yeah, you really do just skip the Reaper. You don't look for information, and that's something we're seeing more and more of out of ByuN. I really just feel as though there isn't a lot of value of going into this main base and picking up info. Astrea is going to open up with a Stargate. Now, a Stargate opener, it's a larger map. It definitely works in PvT. It's one map where definitely Blink Stalkers are somewhat popular as well, though, because of all this space in the main. There's a lot of, very difficult to provide coverage everywhere with the early siege tank count. So a couple of things to look at in that regard. And as you do see, our Adept of Astrea is going to go shading out down through the center, down to the bottom right-hand side, where we do have an SCV currently building up and finishing this command center. So command center will go down. Starport building of ByuN in the main base. I'm just going to be seeing our Phoenix production start up on the Stargates, getting that going. As again, the Widow Mine continue to come on through, is going to rally out and go hide behind the refinery. As this is just a Phoenix opener, Astrea is basically saying, right, I don't want any of your, initial harassment to get anything done. I want to shut that down and shut that down hard. Want to make sure you really can't achieve anything here. And that is kind of the plan. So I imagine that's the goal here from Astrea. Just make sure nothing of ByuN gets through. Nothing can really deal that much damage. And from there on out, I mean, maybe you can play a nice game into Colossus and all the rest of it. And with the way that ByuN's been playing lately, we watched a bit of his TvP earlier in the Kung Fu Cup, and he was playing very aggressively, very drop-heavy. A high Phoenix count is the exact sort of thing that will shut down that sort of play, right? You come in with the, with all of the Phoenix, and you just can't drop around as much, you can't save units as much as you would typically like to. So those are all things to kind of keep in mind. As our Phoenix just going to patrol out on the side, Marines out the front, and another Phoenix heading down to the bottom side of the map. Medevac pops out. The barracks is on the way in the main base. That's the second racks already. Can this Medevac get across the map? I want to say probably not, honestly. This first Phoenix is already going to see it, but at least then ByuN turns it around in plenty of time. Takes no damage on it. Comes this way. Second Phoenix now actually sees it, and this time Astrea realized it. And he's on the hunt. He knows this Medevac's out here somewhere. Where did it go, though? Oh my god, he actually duped me as well. Haha! Astrea believes it's up here, and I did too. I was watching Astrea's vision, and I have full belief it should be up there also, but ByuN turned it around outside of vision and comes back down the bottom side. Hey, that's pretty impressive, and this is awkward now, as ByuN is going to lose a mule. He's probably going to lose 2, so that's 2 fresh mules he loses out on. Good damage from the Phoenix, but there's not going to be Phoenix back at home initially to defend. These first Marines could do very well, especially when you consider that this Medevac is probably going to force some units to go elsewhere to clean up the Widow Mines. Now, Phoenix are nowhere near being able to help out. They're going to pick off these 2 Marines in the back, but these Marines going to get up the ramp. And if they aim for the third base, there's definitely some possibility there. 6 probes going down. The first Widow Mine shot was good. 1 more left to go into the main base with. Now the units on the low ground will have to check in on these. You see that fight starting up. Widow Mine shot is going to go and chase down those probes as the Adepts chase forward here. And ByuN's going to get the connection. He's going to find 8 workers as those probes stack up. Nice find from ByuN. That's what he needed to get a lot of damage done here early. The Marines all go down, but the Marines acted as the distraction necessary. Man, Astrea dealt with this well, too. Pulled the probes back. He saw the Widow Mine coming. He split 1 probe away. Just wasn't enough, and ByuN paying attention as well. And that's just a battle of multitasking that ByuN wins out in. And Astrea starts down on workers in this game. Third base at least on the way up. That will help him to recuperate those losses, but, well, obviously you start low on workers, and that means the first bio push is going to start already being scary, especially when you're playing with Phoenix, and you're already kind of reliant on, you know, Phoenix damage doing well for you. This is nice, catching 2 Widow Mines, though, and that's the sort of damage that could do very well here. Clean up, and to put you into just a better and better position. So Phoenix hanging out around the front as the Forge is coming down. The Twilight Council on the way up in the back of the main base as well. Observer gets scanned, gets picked off here. The Bio Army setting up on the natural. We do see the missile turret here going to turn the Phoenix away. So those get turned back without any issue at all just yet, as now we'll have the Phoenix continue to look around a little bit, see where they can get to. A couple more Widow Mines, the Medevac's coming out as well. And just going to be having a whole chunk of units rallying together and getting ready, I believe, to go across to that upper left-hand side. So that should be the next few moments of this plan. Lead an army out across the map. And +1 attack, combat shields, all the good stuff coming through. Still extra medevacs and bio units all on the way out. Let's see what ByuN can do with this first push. Now, this is going to arrive against 2 Colossi, so there is going to be 2 Colossus up, and neither of them actually are going to have the extended thermal lance. So you're missing the range, and look at this. He knows the Phoenix are out over here. He just sets up the drop already. So he just loads up and starts to take this out across the map? Okay, well, he actually unloads in the end on the third base, and it's, I mean, Astrea has the position to kind of know that he's going to need to be here, so he is in the right place, but now you just lift up and go into the main. What stops you? As I mentioned, ByuN's enjoyed his drop play, and the defense against the drop play is meant to be the Phoenix. Well, what the heck are these Phoenix doing to defend right now? Absolutely nothing. They're in the wrong places at the wrong time. They're going to start lifting up some of these units as ByuN will trade out for probes. He's going to get into this mineral line, and now a few more kills will go down. And he gets 10, 12 worker kills. He's going to come through, and well, for a moment he was starting to target down the Twilight. Then he goes onto the Forge. I mean, the Phoenix lifts will shut this down. A couple of Widow Mines out over here. I got a couple of shots off. They're going to burrow elsewhere, and these other 2 Marines are actually going to stim out, and apparently they're just going to walk out of this Protoss base alive. I mean, ByuN making a bit scrappy, dropping around all over the place, trying to keep Astrea guessing as to where the next attack may be. That's why Astrea's map control is extremely important here. Stuff like this pylon, you know, anything to just watch for units coming in is going to be very important here. The Phoenix going to take the left-hand side as these 2 Marines continue to get away. Looks like the Phoenix will hunt and kill those. I mean, obviously the probe saw them, and the probe does get to stay alive there. It's a shame not to take down that probe, because like I say, that at least forces more units out onto that left side to keep the map control, and that's going to be very important in this series, to keep the map control and to really keep vision of everything that's going on, because drops like this are going to be very difficult to deal with if you're not in the right place. And one drop like this, maybe it's not even the first drop that's the problem, it's the follow-up drop where you say, oh, jump from the natural to the main, from the main to the third, and then you just can't keep up with it, and at that same time, maybe then units are going elsewhere on the map, and that's where ByuN's playstyle becomes really terrifying to play against. As we settle down for the first time in a few minutes, Astrea is setting up to be aggressive himself with this Warp Prism. That's something which it seems like ByuN is not really thinking about at all yet. I thought this was going to be a missile turret over here in this corner, but it's not. It's a depot, so no prep, and that's scary because if the Prism warps in here, Zealots in the third, warp into the main, Zealots in the main, I mean, you've got a very good kind of combo attack there that's going to take a lot of attention away from ByuN. When he doesn't have a lot of units home to defend, that's the sort of thing that wins TvP games in the current meta of TvP. We've seen it time and time again. The Widow Mine aggression as these Phoenix have been great at shutting down mines. I gotta say, I know they've not been great defensively against mine drops, but against actual mines in the army, they've been fantastic. And 10 Widow Mines died this game. All the Phoenix still alive. As now we'll have on this right side a little bit of bio moving forwards. And again, this is going to be starting to test the splitting potential of Astrea and making sure he has the right units in the right places at the right times. But mine there actually does win out a fight with the Phoenix, so finally getting some damage. Now the Zealots into the third. The Prism didn't move into the main at the same time. Maybe doesn't feel like he can afford that many warp-ins just yet. He will now to lift up and maybe go to the main. And there's the double turret. That's why I kind of thought there was already a turret here, because it's likely you build turrets to stop that Prism fly-in path. And now he's just going to go double turret to try and make sure you can stop Prisms getting into the main base with enough HP to then warp in. ByuN's really just holding position on the map, right? Like, he's not going overboard. He's going to now go up to this top side and drop into the main, or is he? That pylon seems to have seen what's up. And he's going to let the Widow Mine pick off the probe, so it's actually nice. Hits the Phoenix for a bit of splash damage. Not really going to be too influential, but maybe scares them away from a little bit of harassment. ByuN's still just setting up on the left side, too. It's a very soft contain. He's sort of given Astrea space, but he's always here, right? And if you're always there, you're only kind of one bad moment of attention away from kind of having a bad time. Now you're going to get first Disruptor and the second one. Oh, no, the second one actually does blow up a chunk of units. It's nice to reset the Disruptor count a little bit, but that's a lot of bio you pay for that effect, basically, as that's another Widow Mine that's going to get to go off here. Apparently no Observer on the right side. Beautiful play with the Archon. Just lets that take some splash damage, and the splash from the Colossus will kill the Widow Mine then. But these Widow Mines just keep burrowing up. I feel like that was meant to be... That was almost like a Stalker that was meant to blink away, but then it didn't actually blink away, right? Because he doesn't have blink. That was my initial expectation of that man. There's a bunch of Widow Mines over here. Does Astrea really know about all of them? Like, he knows about one or two, but now he's going to fly into one. Now he's going to fly into another. And that's 2 dead, 3 dead Phoenix even. And now a Widow Mine shot on the Zealots as well. Astrea was coming over here to clean these up, but he took way more damage than he should have done. And now ByuN knows where that army is. And he's on the top side, and so using his map control to his advantage, and he will strike to the 12 o'clock to take down the 4th base as Astrea is going to lose a few more of these probes. Big split from Astrea down the bottom side of the map as Vikings trying to get into the play. Looking to fight those Colossi a little bit. It's a huge amount of Zealots, 18 Zealots for the 3rd base. There is not enough bio here to deal with that, but ByuN is heading home. And these SCVs need to pull somewhat instantly, and then what? These Ghosts going to land a pretty good EMP on the center of the Zealots. He doesn't have enhanced shockwaves, by the way, so the EMP radius upgrade not currently in action. So this is okay. This starts amazingly for Astrea. Yes, you're going to get a lot of damage done, but remember how many Zealots this is. It was, what, 16, 17? I'm impressed he only lost 4. If he loses all those Zealots, that's a huge cost. But for only losing 4, obviously killing 12 SCVs and forcing a lift on that base is fantastic. So I wasn't initially convinced, but the way it played out, credit to Astrea, he made it work, and now he's still got those Zealots in the bottom left-hand corner to make another play down through the bottom side. Shadow Stride on the way up as Astrea really gets into his comfortable, or more comfortable, late-game setup now. The Bio Army coming through the center here, and we do have a little bit of a force up around the top, so this army moving around as well. Just going to be seeing a couple of batteries warping in up on the top side, 12 o'clock base. And this army of ByuN making its way around is hunting. Both players more or less maxed out at the moment. A little bit of a stim forward, catches a Stalker. I mean, the Liberator count's been building up as well. We didn't really talk much about this, but there were a few Libs in production. I don't know where they are right now. 3 of them. Yeah, they are going to go and kind of harass around a bit, which would have liked a lot more if it didn't fly straight into a cannon. Here comes this base. Under attack once again. Good EMPs, good Marauder placement. Good repair. I mean, that was already kind of low from before, so making sure it doesn't actually die. Good, quick, necessarily quick response from ByuN. He's going to die for Disrupt as he finds 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Don't know about that. That felt a little bit crazy. He's going to get the 5th base on the left side, though. Man, I mean, that was hard to judge, right? He does get a bunch of the Disruptors. Hits the EMP on them to take them low on shields initially as well. This is just a tense game because both players are making pretty cool plays, right? And it really is, you know, one shot away, one Disruptor shot, or a little bit more away from it being so much crazier. Good EMPs, and that's going to be the end of the Colossus, just like that. Good fight for ByuN as he gets great EMPs, and there's just a lacking secondary set of splash damage on this army. The Disruptors aren't here to force the Bio back, so the Bio is able to pay attention and just focus on cleaning up, and Astrea's army gets demolished. Yeah, you take big EMPs, the Vikings are there, the Stalkers aren't in position, you kill one Colossus before anything does damage to the Vikings. Now ByuN's going to lay claim to another 5th base of Astrea, so once again, this base disallowed. ByuN always scanning up these ramps, by the way. He's never caught off guard when it comes to moving up ramps and, you know, Disruptor shots flying out of nowhere. And that's been very notable, right? Whenever a disruptor shot connects, it's because ByuN's made the decision to go far enough forward to try and contest the disruptors. It's never been a case of, oh my god, ByuN, he never saw that coming. No, he knew it was coming, and then he decided, his best way of dealing with it was to dive in and to fight. Credit to Astrea. I know this is obviously now maybe not looking as good for him, but I feel like he's playing a very difficult game with what ByuN is doing. He's having to defend on multiple fronts. He's having to split this army up again and again, and that's extremely frustrating and difficult to do correctly multiple times over. Disruptors here are going to find some decent connections. Sims a couple units forward. They will not succeed, and this set of disruptor shots did probably the best we've seen disruptor shots do in a long time. One of the things for ByuN is there's quite a lot of these Vikings that just don't do much. Good map vision from Astrea, warps and stalkers immediately to come shut down this Liberator. It's very effective harassment management, so that's great. I mean, those are the sort of plays which really just save you from having to worry about elsewhere on the map. Oh, but now Astrea is the one that's going to be caught from the high ground as ByuN moves down. Every disruptor fires. ByuN tries to split towards the end. I mean, he's going to keep on fighting. Remember, every disruptor just fired, right? So now they're all on cooldown, and ByuN has nothing to stop him fighting. There was the DT Zealot attack down here, and that kills 23 workers. So ByuN loses a lot of workers, but he grabs a lot at the same time. The scan is in play there. The Vikings land to help out. Again, if these Vikings were more ByuN units, everything would have probably died off over here, but that's one of ByuN's problems. He's not being able to trade out the Vikings effectively to replace it with Bio. And now he might not be able to afford to with the SCV losses. He does have extra command centers ready to go. So while these losses are kind of painful now, they should be offset in the fairly near future. These DTs are going to jump in onto the ghost here, and ByuN not paying attention, not doing anything about it. Now he scans. He could have really done with the EMP, honestly, to bring their shields off. Lines up a couple snipes. He'll get 2 of them. Nice find from Astrea, getting rid of some ghosts and removing the EMPs from the equation a little bit, making this ByuN army that little bit more engageable, a little bit more manageable altogether. 5th command center of ByuN flies out over to the right-hand side. Well, ghost firing a stalker shot on a bit of Viking lib. Disruptors will fire. Bio backs away. Stalkers blink back one more time as we do see the +3 armor upgrade on the Forge. Going to be finishing in a few moments. Disruptor production is continuing as well. And the DT is going to force the lift off on the command center. So forces that up into the sky. And ByuN is going to rotate around to the top. As the Liberator Siege isn't just going to be setting up to pick off that DT also. That's a nice little move in. Disruptor shot's going to fire, and you do have the super battery healing up whatever possible. The Zealot DT Stalker moving in, and, well, this is interesting because this is obviously very committed from Astrea. He has a recall out, right? That's got to be the plan. I'm not sure killing an orbital is really that worth it either. Kill the orbital, get out of here. And you're still leaving a few Zealots behind. You lose a couple Stalkers. Yeah, I mean, obviously it pulls ByuN all the way back, and you kill 15 SCVs. Okay, I think I like it overall. It was successful. He got out of there alive. If he didn't get out of there alive, it's a little bit like, oh, that's scary. Now there are 3 Liberators over here, nothing to really protect them, so Stalkers just blink in, and all 3 will go down, and ByuN is not going to have that 5th base. He was doing such a great job at denying the 5th base earlier, but now Astrea has not let that go down in a long time. ByuN sends some units to counterattack, some units to hold here on his 4 bases. I mean, Astrea is, going to get caught a little bit. Now Bio has to load into Medivacs, get away from disruptor shots. Observer here is watching ByuN's army movement, so ByuN is kind of known. Everywhere he goes, Astrea kind of is ready for him. He's going to see Stalkers blinking forward, and yeah, I just don't think this is really a good play, right? I don't think this really does that much for you as ByuN. He's down 40 workers, trying to send orbitals into weird 5th base locations now without a natural command center either. I mean, this Bio actually does fantastic on the runaway. Traded out way better than it maybe ever should have done, as ByuN's overall army supply is higher. Oh, whoa. These disruptors, they need to be careful, man. They are on their own. There is nothing to support them nearby, but ByuN doesn't have anything to take advantage of it. I mean, maybe these units could drop back on top. Even them might not have killed the disruptors in time to truly be punishing. He threatens the drop up here. Astrea warps in. I do think Astrea is taking control of this game at the moment. As Stalkers blink through, Medivacs are going down, and Astrea is going to clean this army up. And now ByuN is really going to be reeling a little bit, struggling from, well, just a lack of economy. I'm surprised he didn't even try to rebuild SCVs, but I guess what's he going to do with them? He doesn't have a base to mine from anyway. Resources lost pretty even between the two. The income graph, you can see how it's just been turning in Astrea's favor for the last 5 minutes. And Astrea's army right now is full of, I mean, that's like 10 disruptors. 10 disruptors, DT's just kind of wandering around in it as well. ByuN's going to show up from the high ground. Disruptors will obviously force him back. A few libs will try and set up. Now some libs are actually just running forward. ByuN's trying to split against disruptors. It honestly doesn't go that well. He will chase now and get a few more of these disruptor kills. Can he somehow capitalize on this at all? No, he cannot. He lost too much, and Astrea plays a pretty beautiful game number 1, pick up the victory, and go up 1-0 in this first round matchup in this NA server qualifier. Important qualifier. It requires some good casting, you know. Bottom left-hand side, down a map, our red Terran. Give it up if you're cheering on ByuN. In the top right-hand side, we've got the blue Protoss player from Alpha X. This is Astrea. As we get into game 2 of this best of 3. And we'll look to see what happens here over the next few moments of the series. I gotta give credit to Astrea, you know. I feel a lot of people like to be like, oh, well, he's really Terran biased, and you only cast from the Terran perspective, but it's that kind of game where, like, the Terran is the one being active all the time, right? And it's very easy to be like, oh, yeah, look at ByuN, he's making this job happen, he's making that job happen, he takes this fight. But that's just because he's been the aggressor for a lot of the game. You know, Astrea did a really good job continuing to split armies, continue to defend, and finding some harassment. You know, he was relentless. The first few little bits of harassment, they did okay. But being able to make the calls of when you commit in, when you have recalls out, and really forcing ByuN to pull back a few times. I think just the resilience to get to that stage in the first place. There's a lot of really admirable traits in how Astrea was playing that series. Well, that first game, I should say. That series is not over yet. First game down, but second game right here, right now. Pillars of Gold. So firstly, this is a smaller map. So if ByuN wants to be a bit more aggressive early, anything he goes with will arrive much faster. And if he wants to drop, it feels like, so if you want to drop around like you did before, it's just going to be easier to attack into these bases and to actually maybe make plays happen compared to Romanticide. So that's going to be the question mark from Astrea. Can he defend against ByuN on what will be a little bit of a, you know, a more aggressive map, on a little bit of a tougher map to defend on? Can Astrea survive to the part of the game where we stop talking and shouting about what ByuN is up to, because Astrea is then able to start controlling this game? Let's see if he gets back home. It is a Reaper wall-off here from Astrea, but doesn't matter too much. ByuN opens with the Marine first anyway, same as before. Very possible, of course, that Reaper wall-off becomes a target a little bit later in the game. So something to watch out for there, of course. As ByuN is going to get the factory now and finish that up. He actually ends up high ground expansion. So a high ground expansion here out of ByuN. Very safe way to open, and that's part of the mind game that he played early, as Astrea didn't really know what was up, and he still doesn't know what's up, really. As the Marine and the Adept fight from a distance, SCV has to come forward to repair here, though not actually repairing. Now you're in some trouble of losing this reactor if you're not careful. The Adept should be trying to get this SCV, which now back away, it doesn't. And now the Adept gets let in, as we're going to see an extra Adept showing up. So that goes down. I mean, now you've lost a second, a second unit. The first Adept falls, and the Hellion can chase for a little while. Will it be able to catch the Adept? Shade's not ready, so maybe. That's another good shot off there. The Adept going to try and play the high ground. Gets one shot, but Hellion will continue to chase, and maybe the line of sight blocker will be the play. Nope. As the Marine gets the kill. The line of sight blocker here is weird, because if you have a unit here, I believe it can still see across this gap, so it's not fully line of sight blocked. Hence the shot going off on the Adept, despite it being behind the little fog. Never mind, burrows up, and the Hellion will move across the map. As Astrea, this game, very different style. Obviously does not look toward a Stargate in the slightest. And even very different from the meta in general, right? Goes straight to a Robo facility, and then straight to a Robo base. So straight to Robo and Colossus setup, you'd imagine. There are some weird worlds where, you know, if someone like Zest plays a Colossus drop here, and maybe Astrea wants to do that as well. He does like his own little styles of play. He's not somebody that always plays by the meta. So something like a Colossus drop could be pretty fun, but I watched ByuN play against a Colossus drop of Zest earlier today, and Let me just tell you, I think Zest regretted going for a Colossus drop opening. It wasn't pretty. ByuN dealt with it very well. Right now, Marines drop into the main base, gets a probe. More than anything, you're denying mining time here, and a Hellions going to run into the natural with a Widow Mine as well. So you're taking a lot of attention away from the natural expansion for this Widow Mine, and, well, Hellion to do a lot. The Widow Mine somehow doesn't do well. It fires into the Assimilator, which is a shame. The Marines actually lifted up here, drops back down, will get a sentry kill. The probe's pulled back into play. He kills a Stalker. And ByuN is doing a lot right now as this Hellion is still out here. If this Hellion had actually just lined up some more probes, it had a lot of kills. It's been around for a long time. Obviously, ByuN is paying attention into the main base. As the medevac now goes down, the Marines will get rid of a couple final probes. 5 workers, 6 workers killed in total from ByuN. You know, if it was just the 6 workers, it'd be like, well, he lost a lot. But he killed a Stalker. He killed a sentry. Right? He denied mining on the main and the natural. If you look at the income graph, you can see the plummeting advantage of Astrea into ByuN's favor when he was forced to pull mineral lines. Now the Raven shows up, so the harassment will continue. So there's nothing to really shut the Raven down. There's no Phoenix or anything. What there is arguably you want to keep some of the Raven energy to help deal with Colossus, right? And maybe an auto turret aggressively against a Prism here could help out as well. He's going to get 3, 4 probes if he's not careful. Okay, I guess 3 probes. Well played by Astrea, pulling the other probes back, minimizing the losses. But again, this is lost mine time. He pulled away, and of course, ByuN fully knows what he's up against. You can see missile turret coverage already coming up. He has the Viking, and it was the one Viking that was a savior against Zest earlier when he played against this. It was on this map as well. There's one Viking. It doesn't kill the Prism, but it slows the Prism down. No, ByuN moves it at the wrong time. Oh my god, Astrea sees the Viking and backs away himself. Auto turret back in the main base, and you know what the big deal is? This Bioforce just moves across the map, and there is nothing at home for Astrea. I mean, ByuN could go up into the natural. I think the safer play is obviously to cancel the third base, but he has options over there. As right now, this Colossus drop, this setup has done nothing for Astrea, right? He's invested so much into getting Prism speed, the Colossus, and so far, absolutely no benefit to it at all. As ByuN shows up, he's going to get the pile and a couple of probes. He's going to start getting rid of the Nexus. And yeah, there we go. Finally an SCV kill. But now the Viking's there. It's going to force this back. He's going to recall this onto the third base. What? It took me a moment to realize that's what was happening, but it just made no sense. In what world do you want to recall on the third? I wonder if you picked the wrong Nexus to recall to. That was never going to work, obviously. And it really didn't. GG's. ByuN ties it up 1-1 in this series. Tied up 1-1. In the top right-hand side, our red Terran player. This is ByuN. Up against the blue Protoss. On the bottom left-hand side, it's from Alpha X, Astrea. The only reason I can think of recalling that Colossus there is that he just misclicked the Nexus. I'm pretty sure that's the only way in which you do that. Because it just doesn't make any sense, right? And we know Astrea knows that as well. Like, there's no way in which that Colossus is ever going to survive. You recall it to the natural, and then you maybe fight with units and you have an okay time, but it just makes no sense to recall. The only other thing is maybe he thinks ByuN might run away from the recall. But what do you think is going to be recalled? Do you think he's recalling units from the natural to the third? Like, he's had so long to send units from the natural anyway, so I don't disagree that ByuN should just sit there and fight whatever shows up to try and defend against it, because he's going to get a few free shots off as the recall finishes anyway, before the units can move. And even so, then at the very least, you're probably going to take a pretty good trade out. Because he knows how much money is invested into the Colossus and the Prism speed and all of that stuff. Man, what an absolutely crazy affair. Ooh, okay, well, game number 3. We've got a fun series here, guys. Again, it's a big one. Obviously, continue to run through this winner bracket as you look to qualify for that $57,000 event. No extra chances here. You've got an elimination bracket, a losers bracket as well. But this is the last qualifier. This is after today. If you're not qualified, you're not in the tournament. It's as simple as that, unless something very serious changes. So it is really a intense, high-intensity situation. Oh, both these guys, really. SCV scouts into the main base just to see what is up and what is going on initially. Wouldn't say anything too crazy about that. pulling back home after going across the map to see a nexus. So everybody knows kind of what's going on here. The early scouts look good. Players come home, and we get ready for the next step. Well, the council going to be the opening from Astrea. I like that, he's really gone through, 3 different tech paths now early game. I like ByuN's opening as well, though. Triple CC. Such an early triple CC as well. Maybe a little dangerous if Astrea does get aggressive with the Blink Stalkers. So maybe a little bit unfortunate in that regard. I feel like triple CC is really good if you open Stargate or so. But not impossible to defend against pressure that might show up here in the early stages. So I don't hate it. It does depend on how much pressure Astrea applies, and right now it looks like he might just be setting up for a fast third base anyway. And if that's the case, then, I mean, this doesn't really, matter all that much, right? This is going to be seen at Gateway at the front finishing up. A couple Stalkers out the front as well. Going to see an engineering bay on the way up in the back then from ByuN. Obviously with the 3cc, that's something Astrea is finally going to find as he flies down here. So now he's going to see the speed of that third, but he went for a fast third of his own. So it's just nice for the town play. Obviously just gets to, build on that work account. Maybe a little bit of Stalker harassment, but nowhere near the numbers that you could really do anything with. And there's not even a Prism out or any sort of robo to set up toward that. I like this response. So Astrea goes double Forge. He realizes that obviously ByuN's not going to come at him with like a mega amount of aggression, and so in return he's going to say, cool, going to get double Forge up and running, going to get my upgrades looking to be really, really good here. As it looked like ByuN wanted to move across the map to pressure a third base with this high Marine count. He'll be denied by these Stalkers, obviously can't justify the damage he'll take moving across the map. He'll basically have no Marines left by the time he arrives down on the bottom side. So we're seeing our factory about to finish up. And it's going to be seeing our bunker is finishing on the front as well. So yeah, you go up to 3 racks right now, and you get the factory done. The starport begins. Obviously, the SCV count is... The probe count's going crazy because Astrea also knows that he can put chronos into probes. He's now chronoing out upgrades. I do like the greedy upgrades, and then going into like this big gateway style, only off 2 gates. It's going to be a lot of charge lots, right? So Blink, and then support and charge lots. Against, well, it will be a lot of bio as well, but... I mean, charge lots do help to absorb that bio damage as long as they don't just get kited forever, so... I do like the direction we are moving in for now as a hallucinated Phoenix up into the main base. The starport going to lift off here. That's going to swap over to the reactor as the factory moves south. There's our combat shield coming through, the +1 attack upgrade about to complete. Again, these few Stalkers from Astrea just out down the low ground. Bio is going to start pressing forward. Bio stems, a bit of Marine Marauder chasing down those Stalkers. There's our 3rd CC moving through. ByuN, if he makes an attack happen, it's going to be after 1-1, after charge, so there's not really a timing here where it's like, oh, ByuN, that's your moment. No, he doesn't have a moment in this game. And the reason is just because he is very racks heavy and very slow to the starport, hence slow to the medevac, so justifying going across the map at any point of this is very difficult to do. It's really difficult to do, actually. Stalker down that right side. We do have the robo base setting up in the natural as well. 4th Nexus over on the left-hand side. T2 upgrades on the way in the forges. We do have our robo bay, which is going to be finishing up in the right-hand side of this in just a few moments' time as well. Yeah, Prism off over to the far right side. Just going to see our bio moving down the bottom. There's a lot of Zealots. I still like the amount of army that ByuN has, but down on upgrades, I mean, that's a big thing. You don't see double Forge oftentimes from the Protoss nowadays. What I do think is a pretty big deal is, oh, SCVs are pulling, huh? Wow, ByuN's really committing. Okay, well, this is going to be interesting because now the Zealot's going to use that charge on the SCVs. That does give the Bio a chance to get on top, but by kiting back, he kind of kites into a full surround because of the Zealots from the bottom side, and you're going to see the effectiveness of that Zealot kind of upgrade fest. As the Zealot count lowers, though, maybe that's the opportunity for ByuN, who is now starting to kill off Stalkers and Sentries. Another round of Zealots warping in. He loses 15 SCVs to make this attack happen, so he kind of has to keep going. He's committed to dealing damage here, and it looks as though he will do that. There's a Colossus about to finish, but how much goes down before that is done? This is big as well now, because you're going to get into a corner, chasing down probes, and you're just going to be able to sit in a position where the Zealots cannot really get to you easily. That's where the Colossus are going to become very important. He should kill this pylon. He shouldn't let those Stalkers warp in, because now the Stalkers can protect the Colossus. You've got to come through a choke point to get to the Colossus, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity from ByuN. If he kills this pylon, those Stalkers don't warp in, and there's a Bio army that can just jump on the Colossus, no issues. Okay, well, by killing 9 probes and all these probes running away, ByuN gets a chance at least to catch back up in workers. The biggest issue for ByuN is how committed he was. You know, he's about to be up against 2-2 upgrades. If you've ever seen a Protoss army that just doesn't die, probably going to be this one. Astrea has a 4th base as well, and that just felt like the commitment in that just didn't do enough at all. You know, when the Zealot count was going down quickly, it felt like there was a lot of hope, right? But I feel like you got to stop those warp-ins, and like I say, the Stalkers getting up, I feel like that was a big issue here. Well, our Bio army moves out down to the south side. There's an observer that's going to sit out on this ramp. And a couple of Vikings on the way out, they're going to rally up into the main base. Bio army all the way down to the bottom side of this here. 71 of 47 army supply, but upgrades to Colossi. These are problems that you have to contend with right now as ByuN, as he's trying to just force his way through a choke. He has a couple of Vikings to start pushing out damage, but there's a shield battery here. Make that a second one. I don't think this is breakable, as ByuN is going to go to the left, and he might actually just find the fact there's a 4th base already, and that is going to be a huge problem. And as the Bio gets in, we'll take down this Zealot. A couple of SCVs lost. The Bio actually unloaded. Astrea was expecting the big drop around. Now ByuN is going to kind of get caught a little bit. He can't lift up and run away because the Stalker's blinking already. Now ByuN knows that Astrea is coming, but the good news for ByuN, okay, the one thing I do like for him is that he does have Viking production. He accepts that he's going to need an answer to Colossi, and he doesn't really have a good way to handle that with just Bio. And the Vikings are something that oftentimes are too late to the party. And so you do, after losing a bit of Bio, your next round of Bio does not have a good time at all, because you've got no way to deal with the Colossi that the Protoss survived through building and now have 2 to 3 of. And that would be exactly this case, or this scenario right now, if ByuN had not built Vikings. But he has got the Vikings. It gives me a little bit of hope for ByuN in some of these fights. Man, Astrea on the way to 3-3, by the way. So it's going to be 2-2 against 1-1. It'll be 3-3 against 1-1 before 2-2 is done of the Terran, especially in a world where ByuN is on no armory still. So he's got to build an armory. This feels a lot like we're going to have probably an SCV pull into just a big timing now that the Ghosts are out as well. Maybe just pull the SCVs and kind of go for this. I mean, Astrea's building everything. Disruptor's on the way. Dark Shrine is on the way. He's got a Prism in this main base, so ByuN's going to have to turn around and go deal with that, and that's just pressure that ByuN can't really handle at the moment. Gets there. Prism gets pushed back down the right. SCVs do go down. Cells will unload. Vikings gonna look to chase this and just gonna be seeing the Prism kind of cornered, so you will get rid of the Prism at least. That's nice, removing some of the pressure from the map. I mean, it's still a fact that ByuN is fighting so heavily down on upgrades. I don't think he makes anything happen before 3-3 is in play, and now he's gonna have to deal with Dark Templar harassment as well. There's no 4th base. ByuN wins this game with this attack, or this is going to go Astrea's way, as the Vikings going to show up initially, gets an EMP down, gets rid of a Colossus. There's a lot of Zealots leading forward, but now obviously the Vikings have obviously been just shot down by the Stalkers, and the Bios continue to move. Here's the SCVs. They're arriving too late as Astrea caught this on the left-hand side. ByuN types out GG, and Astrea's going to win out over ByuN to move through in the winner bracket. GG's, and just like that, ByuN will have to make a lower bracket run